Hello, everybody. My name is Ian Kirkpatrick. I'm an author, idiot, and loin streamer, and today we're going to be talking about Village of Lights by Maddilyn Muse. Now, this is a book that was featured on the Monday feature last year, maybe a little longer than that, and then the author contacted me asking if I would read it, and I said that I would, so that was added to my TBR, and only now am I catching up to it because I'm trying to be somewhat systematic with reading. Anyway, so that's why we're here. Now, before we get started into the meat and potatoes of this, a couple of things. Number one, if you enjoy what I do here on the channel, please remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Number two, if you would like to be featured on the channel, check out the links down in the description below. Number one way to be featured is through Lemoy, the monthly prompt writing contest. Number two is through the Fresh Meat feature, where if you're an indie author and you have a book out or a book that is coming out, if you submit the first chapter and the cover, that chapter will be read here on the channel to hopefully help more readers find your work. I may pick up your book, I might not pick up your book, but there are a million, billion, many more than that readers in the world. And hopefully, not even hopefully, I know whatever you do appeals to somebody somewhere. It's just about finding them. And the third thing is, I will be doing summer reading based on what you guys submit or chosen from what you guys submit. So if you would like your book read on the channel, kind of the way that I do things here, check out that link. Just prepare thyself for the happenings. The third thing is, if you would like to check out any of my books, they're available at any of your favorite places to get books. And as you might see, the decorations around here have changed a little bit to feature the characters for the novel I'm working on right now. My forthcoming novel, The Legend of Bill Cassidy, Book 1, American Princess. Now, there's a reason for that. She's right there. Anyway, that said, let's get into some of the introductions of this. Now, first off, this book was a little jarring to read. It came off as middle grade, generally reads as middle grade from the way that the characters and the plot and the writing are, but it is very liberal with swearing. And then there are a couple of sex jokes in there, which makes it obviously no longer middle grade. So then it had this really jarring effect of reading very immature, but also forcing this adult humor into it. And I wasn't sure how to read it. And I mentioned this to some people, and someone mentioned, well, it could be like Vivzy Pop. And immediately, well, after a little bit of percolating, I should say, and after a little bit of thinking, that felt accurate. Is that this is Vivzy Pop style writing. And if you're not familiar with Vivzy Pop, she is the creator of Has Been Hotel and Hell of a Boss. And so you've kind of got this swearing is the punchline thing going on. It's excessive. It is inappropriately placed in sentences, which makes the characters read even more childish. And they all swear in the exact same way and respond to situations the exact same way. And so then they all start feeling like the same sort of character. We'll get into that. But I'll look forward to your guys' thoughts on it and how you feel about the writing, because to me, it felt like middle grade trying to be more mature by inserting swearing. And swearing doesn't automatically make your book appeal to adults or fall into adult camp if it's not written in a way for adults. It just becomes a book that is written for younger people to feel like they're older. And I might sound like I'm judging right here. There are plenty of people that love Vivzy Pop. Vivzy Pop is very popular. So if that is your jam, that is your jam. But obviously, this was not my jam, or even my jelly. Anyway, we're going to get into it. Starting with the opening page, quote, "Her name was Asha May, new apprentice straight out of the Alabon's Academy of Adventuring, Archaeology, and Artifact, located deep in the jungles of Alabon. It was a common joke to abbreviate the name by just screaming, 'Ah!' And she was on her first official adventure ever. It wasn't much, just a simple escort mission, make sure supplies get from point A to point B. The route wasn't completely harmless, but there wasn't anything particularly threatening either, so it was common for newly apprenticed adventurers to be given their first task here. Her given mentor for the mission kept watch as she lied on a shaky cart, trying to catch up on lost sleep. Maybe she was a bit too ambitious, trying to take the entire night shift by herself, but she did fend off a 6-tusked jungle boar. Relatedly, breakfast was delicious. Asha was lying atop the merchant's supply cart, wedged between boxes of fruits and foodstuff, with her eyes shut, letting her mind wander. How was her family doing? They had mixed feelings about letting her go on this business after all, and it's not as though this was real adventuring yet. She could only imagine all of the places that she would be going when she got into an actual adventurers guild. Maybe she'd even get to see the snow stuff that some of the northern students like to talk about. She'd seen pictures, and one course had fake snow, but she'd never seen it in person. Though personally, she was hoping to get some job in the water. She was a pretty strong swimmer. She'd grown up on her grandmother's tales of days gone by, tales of people discovering old tombs and finding magical artifacts, tales of stopping megalomaniacs and finding power of a forgotten age, relics of the mad mages who had almost destroyed the world and sent it into darkness millennia ago. Her grandfather before her was an adventurer. Now it was her turn. She could see it now, coming into town, telling tales around a fire, winning people's hopes and finding some long-forgotten tomb, making a path and a name for themselves, beholden to none. Being an adventurer was perfect, or well, at least it seemed perfect. So from the get-go of the style of this writing, it immediately gives me the Spook's Apprentice vibes. You know, it's this young girl going out on her first adventure. She is not actually an official adventurer yet, which again makes her feel younger. First time going out, again, drops it into the ages of like 13, because, you know, that's, I think, around 12, 13 was when the main character of Spook's Apprentice got pushed out the door to go on his first adventure. And so, and then with the style of humor, like with the long and her thinking about her family and her thinking about becoming something big, just the way that this is written feels very young, feels very like I'm going to become my own identity, which puts me in middle grade. So Asha is traveling with this merchant caravan, and they talk about this magical cavern that is kind of just a rumor around here. Quote, one of the merchants, a young, naturally white-skinned but tan man with a scraggly beard, grinned at her and said, the Black Maw. Legends say there's a great black beast at the bottom, so dark that you can't make out its flesh from its teeth. He grinned, showing off his own teeth. One canine had been replaced with gold, and slowed his voice as he continued. No one's entirely sure what it first was. A lizard, a frog, perhaps a small monkey, or even a rodent. Me? I personally believe it was a spider. He chuckled at Asha's shudder. Oh yes, most certainly, the ones you're thinking of. Some believe it to have been the first direwolf spider, the original broodmother. Direwolf spiders were known for being aggressive, messing up any attempts to do anything underground, and also being either the size of a young jaguar or, with females, about the size of a house. The merchant flipped a coin in his hand as he continued. Regardless, the creature was small and scared, as small creatures should be. After all, the world was huge and wanted to eat it, but one day it came across a great black panther lying on the ground, near to death from hunters who wanted its heart. The beast pleaded with the small beast to help, but rather than help, it ate through its chest and took its heart out. It ate through its chest and took a heart itself. With its last breath, the panther cursed the beast with fathomless hunger, and cursed the world that would kill it as well. And so the little beast was. It ate and ate, consuming all in its path, but it was never satisfied. Things that had once been feasts were mere crumbles in the creature's jaw. It ate through the earth itself and was still unsatisfied. It was only when the white tiger of the great river saw what its cousin had done that at last something was to be done. The beast clawed through the earth, the water at its tail. With each strike, the water grew stronger and faster, turning white as the tiger itself, until finally the beast leapt down and the water followed, flowing into the beast's maw. And now the water falls there forevermore, feeding, but with no food to grow from. The day the tiger finally dies and the water stops, it'll come to eat us all, he shrugged. At least, as the rumors say. But sir, do you believe in the rumors? Or is this just you passing on a story? As they travel, they come across this bridge that snaps while Asha is on the caravan, and it falls into this hole, seemingly defies gravity for a bit before hitting the ground. All around her it's cold, and there are little lights everywhere. She feels something in her head, doesn't know where she is, and then everything goes black as she screams until she passes out. Asha then wakes up very confused, is laying in a bed in a warm house, and is trying to make sense of where she is. She sees someone wearing an odd-looking mask, and eventually this woman introduces herself as Kyra, a baker, and she tells Asha that this is the village of Lux. She was found by another villager wandering around confused in a daze, calling out, and then was brought in because it's so cold outside that if she was not helped, she likely would have died. Despite Asha being welcomed by Kyra and fed, even given free reign to look over her pantry and pretty much her entire house, Asha is insanely aggressive and rude. She also sees a flashlight thing, but there is no source of like power or batteries or anything that would be causing it to have light. The woman says that it is powered by magic, and Asha chokes on a laugh of disbelief because, magic is big and mean and destructive, not this little thing that you put into a flashlight to help you see. Duh. Kyra then offers her friend, Glowworm, as someone that Asha can stay with if she's going to stay here longer. Now, my question for Kyra is, you don't know this person, you don't know where she came from, you haven't asked her any questions of her origin, and she just threatened you 3 times, but you're going to go and sick her on your friend so that she can live with him? This is like either top-notch hospitality with the side of cluelessness, or just a really bad sign that no one in this world will react to anything that Asha says or does that's inappropriate. Place your bets now which one it is. She's given winter gear by Kyra because going outside in this weather with no magic is dangerously cold. Asha complains about the clothing not being good enough and then leaves. She follows the odd lights through the darkness until she finds the village. The first person Asha meets is, quote, "I'm Lottie, newly of age high priestess of looks, goddess of light, hope, truth, and joy. May she light our way through the darkness. Welcome to her village, last sanctuary against the encroaching void." Asha is then taken to a clothing shop where she meets Glowworm, who gives her a bunch of clothing and then invites her to stay at his house. She's suspicious of all this hospitality in general, but goes along with it because what choice does she have? Glowworm takes care of Asha, gets her even more clothes, negotiating lower prices and then buying them for her, shows her around, says how hard it was for him to fit in when he first came here. This place has a bunch of empty houses from something that happened, but he doesn't want to explain. He might not even know. Then they go to his house. When he goes to unlock the door, the padlock is already on the ground. It's weird that they have padlocks on their houses like they live in barns, instead of just like normal locks or magic locks maybe. Kyra's already inside his house and sits him down, leading to him saying, "Why are you like this?" And the feeling is that this is just a bunch of kids hanging out in a clubhouse, again, leading it to feel like children, like middle grade. They invite Asha to stay and to share a bed because it'll keep them both warmer, but Asha's like, "What the frick? I don't know you. I can't share a bed with you." And they're like, "But it's big enough, like who cares?" Also, it's said that Kyra comes over all the time, might partially live here with Glowworm sometimes. It's hard to tell if it was being sarcastic or not. Later on, it turns out it is being sarcastic. She just comes by a lot. This was before I asked about the humor of this book and I understood that it was Vivzy Pop. So understanding that it is doing that makes more sense. Glowworm pulls out some cat pajamas to wear around. Like it's a onesie. And so, again, yeah, we're like, one of the things with Glowworm is he is described as wearing like very outlandish clothes with very bright red hair, but like everything that he wears is very outlandish, and it's one of the reasons why he doesn't really fit in. Talking about sleeping arrangements, Kyra's already trying to ship Glowworm and Asha. Quote, "You know, they are pretty comfy. Maybe I'll try that." Glowworm said, "Oh, do you want me to start wearing clothes in bed?" "Wait, you," Asha blinked a few times before yelling, "Why was this not something you were doing before? It is literally freezing." Her face grew hot at the idea of walking in on him lounging around naked. "Please, yes, for the love of whatever god you may or may not worship, please wear clothes. Preferably different clothes, but if her choice were fashion disaster or naked, she would take disaster." Kyra giggled. "You two are arguing like an old married couple. Is there something I should know, Glow?" "I literally just met her today," Glowworm said, rolling his eyes. "But you're already offering her your bed." I wonder what his personality is like long term, because theoretically Kyra and Glowworm know each other long term, so this shouldn't be a surprise to her. Does she know what he is like? Because that doesn't sound like it's a normal occurrence based on her reaction. Asha determines she doesn't want to leave this place yet because they never let a newbie, because if she left and went back to her village to talk about this, then they would send real adventurers down here to discover everything, and they would never let a newbie like her make any discoveries on their own. She wants the glory, she wants the discovery, and so she is going to investigate this place on her own to make a name for herself before she leaves. She asks about the lights, and Kyra tells her that they are run by magic. They all talk about their background. Asha's from a diverse city. Her parents aren't bad, and they're so decently well off that she doesn't need to be an adventurer for money, but she wants to be one. And obviously we saw that in the intro where she's like, Grandpa was one, and I want the glory, and I like the idea of this, and it's just so cool, but my parents are like, it's dangerous, honey, maybe don't go. And she's like, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna be my own person, okay? So she's kind of separated from her family because they never really liked the adventuring thing, which kind of makes you go, how do they feel about Grandpa? And how do they feel about Grandma and Grandpa constantly sharing stories of adventuring, which obviously inspired Asha to want to pursue adventuring. At the end of it all, Asha's kind of like, it's just a little depressing, but it's like, whatever. Glowworm bails on them because Kyra wants to talk to Asha about magic, and he has heard that speech a million times before that it is so boring. So now you get a long explanation with a bunch of exposition of just Kyra telling Asha about all kinds of magic, and the two of them bicker throughout. There's really no explanation for why people aren't learning magic when it is this easy to learn, apparently, because Kyra's just going through all of these theories and all of this like well laid out whatever, but apparently people are just not learning it. Asha's even like, who wouldn't want to learn magic? And Kyra says most people apparently, and Asha's like, that's dumb. Yeah, this isn't really a good explanation for why society has shunned magic entirely, except for those living in the maw. And that's the magic maw that we talked about at the beginning of the novel. So why did people shun magic? Obviously, it was mentioned earlier that magic is destructive, and so then that's what they teach on the surface if they teach magic anything at all. But we don't really have a sense of like what magic is like from where Asha's from, if it's used at all in day-to-day society. She constantly compares it to science and says that they have science on the surface and they have malls on the surface and like the normal amenities. And so it's kind of weird that we don't really get to see what it looks like otherwise. After it's all over, they're gonna rest, and Kyra tries to convince Asha to stay a little longer than an adventurer normally would, but Asha's only interested in finding things to make a name for herself. Kyra leaves the building sad. Glowworm goes to work in the mines where his mom also is, and his mom taunts him a bit like a mother does, basically pinching his cheeks, and everyone there asks about Asha before Glowworm goes home. Asha wakes up and Glowworm's talking to her about not knowing what she eats and wanting to feed her. Also, taking her to some cultural event that's said to be a theater thing, but it's also actually a religious thing. Asha doesn't understand any of this, and why people show up to the theater when they don't really even know what's going on at the theater. So the thing with the theater is that they have like a cycle of plays that go on in there, and they're all like religious related. They're all related to the goddess Lux. They're all related to the village, but the villagers never really know what is going to be put on in the theater. And I think they're mostly put on by the priestess, but I'm not entirely sure. She's just the one giving this show, this puppet show of sorts, with, I guess, an ensemble cast, but she is the main thing because she is also the priestess. So they never know what show is going to play, but people just show up to see what's going to play. And it's like, yeah, but people show up to church for sermons, not necessarily knowing what the sermon's going to be about that week either. So it's really not that weird, especially when it's about your religious practices. The woman on the stage speaks, quote, Lux, mother of light, giver of warmth, and savior of humanity, blessed be her name. While there are many stories of her, we gather here to start at the end. Through her sacrifice, humanity continues. Music started playing from her small orchestra, mostly woodwinds and string. All eyes on the figure on the stage. All eyes were on the figure on the stage as she smiled down at them, waving cordially. The narrator continued. She alone dared stand against the darkness, raised humanity out of the endless void. Something shifted in the background, and the music became more ominous, woodwinds dropping off some of the strings playing. The narrator said, but the darkness is not one to let go. A long, snake-like, shaggy-furred beast slithered partially out of the shadows, several pairs of legs moving underneath it. It was pitch black, save for a gleaming red horn coming from its nose. It raised up head, towering over Lux as someone let out a mad, keening laugh, mouth moving. Its voice was hissing and loud. At last, I have found you, Lux. More and more of it came from the shadows beneath the stage, circling around Lux and cackling. You think that you can run from me? You think that you can steal what's mine? What's yours? Lux said, scoffing at the being. She drew an ornate spear out of her back. You don't own them. Humans deserve to be free. All exists to be consumed, the beast hissed in glee. We exist to live our lives, Lux said, shifting the stance and pointing the spear at the beast puppet. Asha held her tongue about the posture being entirely wrong. She was holding it like she intended to swing it. This ends here. Asha doesn't trust organized religion of any kind. The play concludes and the priestess, who is Lottie from earlier, comes over to talk to Asha, who is not super interested in talking to her about like any of this. I hate to say it, but she is a really bad adventurer if this is how she treats anthropology. Like, she said she wanted to keep doing this so she could make discoveries on her own, but she hates everything and everyone and is not interested in the religion that she is experiencing, not writing any of it down, not writing any of the magic down. Like, wouldn't this be a singular experience that you could get from this because nobody else talks about the goddess Lux, in which this village is created after? However, despite the way that Asha acts, nobody even has a mild response to Asha's ill manners. Lottie invites Asha to come see her anytime if she needs any help, and Asha says, "Sure thing, Lottie. I just might." She then goes to Glowworm and starts getting on him about how the frick can your goddess lose an entire sun, and how do you people not know where it is, and also you don't have one. So the thing about this place is obviously it's underground. She fell into the ground, but they also have a night sky that has like stars, but there's no moon. And so then the entire thing is how darkness, the void, ate the sun, and now they don't have a sun, and Lottie keeps them safe. Not Lottie. And the priestess Lux, the goddess Lux, keeps them safe with her powers, as they don't have a sun and nobody knows what happened to the sun. And again, I'm not really sure about how this is, because this entire time I imagine they were just underground, stuck in this underground place, this village in a cavern basically. And now we're talking about, well, you should have a sun in the sky. How do you not know where the sun is? At the very least, the village people who were brought up in this could have thought that they had a sun and they not realize that they were in a cave. But Asha should have realized that they were in a cave and then been trying to get them onto the surface, like question, why don't you have a sun? Do you know what a sun is? We can take you to the sun if we can get up there somewhere. Also, obviously, there has to be light somewhere because she fell into a hole that has a connection to the surface. I mean, maybe she like plop, 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 and then rolled down a couple of times, and it's so deep in there that it's covered from the surface, but we're not entirely sure on that. And also stars, which again you could make sense of by having it be some sort of crystal in the cavern or some liquid in the cavern, like water coming through and then light catches on it and those illuminate, but we don't really get that sort of world building. Asha is also super aggressive about this whole don't you know where the sun thing is, that she is demanding answers because who loses an entire planet, you idiots? Quote, unless you're telling me that that was actually literal. Somehow I doubt that. But don't let anyone hear you say that, he said with an awkward chuckle. But life goes on. Some places use fire elements. This place has lanterns and finds a way around it, or you die, I guess. I mean, are we sure that we ever had, what did you call it, a sun? The sun is sort of a basis for life. I'm not sure how you got here without one, Asha said. Asha, I appreciate your curiosity, but what part of I don't know are you not understanding? The part where humanity evolved without a sun or at all? It occurred to her that she wasn't anywhere that she'd ever heard of. I mean, where even are we? Underground or something? I don't think so. Even if there is no sun, there should be at least stars, and if not, where's the ceiling? Like rocks falling down sometimes or something, right? Asha, I have no idea what you're talking about, Glowworm said. Her hounding is not going to help. I don't think she's ready to graduate the Adventurers Training Guild. She doesn't have the people skills. They get back to Glowworm's house and he's going to take a bath. It's in the same room as everything else, and Asha again freaks out about him undressing. Quote, Asha sputtered, sparing a glance. His shirt was off, but his pants were still on, thankfully, and rubbed the bridge of her nose. You can't just like, she gestured helplessly at him. I can see you. And I could see you nude. I don't see a problem. Asha wanted to scream. Her options were either keeping her eyes covered the whole time or leave. But if she left, she might not get a bath. And a hot bath with a fire sounded wonderful, actually. Plus, who knows when she'd get to again. She sighed, turned to look at him, and, dude, are you okay? Again, what kind of training did she even go through to become an adventurer when this is like how she is? You can be completely awkward around nudity, but like everything bothers her, and she has no chill. Also, she was traveling with a caravan of strangers. Did they not have to bathe around each other at some point, or change around each other, or pee around each other at some point, or like go off the path to pee while they're right there, but you're in the wild, so it's awkward? He eventually gets in the bath anyways, and they talk about ghosts, and she finds something to busy herself with so she's not thinking about him being naked. Oh, and it reminds me, when talking to the priestess, there was this whole thing about a soul stone mentioned, and how most of them down here are wearing one on their necks, and it carries souls around slash gives souls somewhere to go when they die. That's at least what they say. Asha gets over the nudity fast enough because she also wants a hot bath, so she gets an after glowworm. And if you're wondering, yes, they do share bath water because they apparently don't have running water in this place. Asha then visits Kyra at the bakery and is introduced to some strange foods and the fact that the chocolate Kyra has came from a cart that Asha was supposed to deliver. So anything that falls into that hole comes to these people, and that's how they get at least some of their things. They must grow like some things down here. There must be some agriculture. There must be some animals somewhere to sustain them. Right? You'd think. Also, if Asha fell down, she was not the only one with the caravan. Where are the other people that she was with? Where did they go? Did they get eaten? Are we gonna plump up Asha so that she can be the next meal because these people are desperate for anything? But when they find carts, that gives me the interpretation that they can at least see the surface, because now Asha's body may have rolled off a cliff to get underneath, where the shelf was for the light underneath that bridge. But the whole cart is going to mash? I don't know about this, my guy. For some reason, they also talk about dyeing your hair and how they use magic to dye hair down here. While they don't use magic on the surface, they use something else. And then more exposition about magic systems with even more random swearing. And Asha is talking about gravity and Kyra not believing in the surface or the sun existing. And she is glad for the dark anyway. She likes the dark better than this idea of the sun. What is the idea of the sun? Because Glowworm is like, I don't even know what you're freaking talking about. But then Kyra is like, I don't like the idea of the sun. Did you describe what the sun was? They flirt a little bit, and then Kyra tells Asha how she is fixing up this ship that she found. She says that it can fly. They go to check it out, and it can't fly yet, but she's working on it. Kyra's like, this is silly because no one really cares, and no one ever will care. And Asha's like, homegirl, nah, it's cool regardless of what comes of it, regardless of what anybody thinks of it. You do you. And then they have another moment of cheerleading. They talk about magic again, say that religious ones don't like the fire magic as much. But then you go, why wouldn't they like fire magic when they literally live in the dark cold? That it doesn't make any sense. Fire magic or fire in general would be necessary for their survival based on where they live. And also to be like, well, it has to do with the magic side of things. You can't even condemn the magic because you worship a magic being. So why do these super religious ones not like fire magic when it literally keeps them warm and cooks their food? So that's one thing that comes up constantly in this, is we don't really have a strong sense of like what the culture is in this place, what the culture of magic is, and like the arguments that they're making. After they talk a little bit more, they race off to go and talk to Glowworm again. So now she is just milling around and sits down to talk to the priestess Lottie and tell her about what adventurers are, which is described as, quote, basically we go around, explore things, and try to help people out with bigger issues, like the real big stuff. If you're lucky, you manage to find some magic shit. Magic stuff. Artifacts, ruins, the works, basically. Thanks, Asha. That explains a lot. Now, there was a bit of confusion here as to whether or not they do believe in magic on the surface, because when Asha was being told about magic by Kyra initially, she was like, nah, no. But I guess that could go back to her just thinking that magic is this bigger thing that is destructive and not something that you could just use to make like little lights for your house and be benign. Anyway, Lottie is glad to hear that maybe Asha can help her out here and deal with some major issues, and takes her off to a private space to talk to her about said issues. So Lottie informs Asha that she's only filling in for priestess because the last one died randomly, and the single heiress who had been named to become priestess had also disappeared without without a trace, and not even leaving behind a soul stone, so it's like she didn't even exist. Now Lottie is afraid of saying or doing too much to get out of line, that it might bring the ire onto her from who knows where. She doesn't know if it's looks punishing people or if there's somebody else around doing that. She just doesn't want to disappear. Asha asks about where she can go to ask for more information with what's going on, and Lottie tells her to go to the butchery where meat flows to help the lips loosen. And I'm like, why didn't she just say go to church to talk to some of the other religious people to get more ideas of like how this all works if she thinks it's related to that? Though I guess that would imply that it's not related to religion that she thinks this stuff is happening. At the butchery, there are a bunch of super tough guys telling stories about their defeats of things while they're drinking in their underwear and cooking bacon. They then challenge Asha to tell one that she has, which she makes up on the spot because as an inexperienced adventurer, she really doesn't have that many things to share. They all call her out on it because they can tell when she is lying, and then they challenge her to a fight. She kind of goes through the different guys because she gets to pick who she fights, and she does pick, but then she eventually loses. The group is still super impressed and invites her to join their party. She's like, I'll think about it, and decides it's now time to ask them about the sketchy thing that Lottie asked her to chase. They start questioning Asha if she's some girl named Gail who showed up out of nowhere halfway between girl and woman with a soul stone of her own and had been living with a fisherman down there, and they only kept her around because of some form of magic. She had some form of magic, which then implies that other people do not have magic in this place. So is it just Lottie who uses the magic? Or, like, how common is the magic? Who are the magic users in this place? Do they all know magic? They did say that nobody wants to learn magic, so is it just something that you can learn to do and most people in this place learn not to do it? Because that doesn't make any sense. Like, why at least learn to do fire magic to keep yourself warm? And then they're all weirded out that Gale has water magic, but they also know that magic exists. So like, I don't really understand the ousting of these main characters that are brought into this. They keep saying that she might be some sort of sea monster trying to get them. Why? Because she's around the water? She's not the only one around the water. I don't really have an idea of what the landscape of this place looks like or what any of the beliefs are, and it kind of just feels a bit all over the place. Of all of the things that they tell Asha, she, the newcomer, who just got a crash course from Kyra, knows that the things they are being described as what Gale can do, it doesn't make her a sea monster, it makes her able to do water magic. So they have all of the information available to them where they live to determine what Gale is, because it's just the use of magic. Anybody can learn magic, and yet nobody knows what it looks like. Despite living here for who knows how long, what is the culture? What do they do in school if it's not magic? When they have a culture of freaking doing magic, of a goddess of light who does magic. All of their lights are magical. And now they're like, well, we don't know. It's kind of sketch. And nobody knows anything about the history of magic here. Then they're talking about Kyra, and barely anyone even knows who Kyra is because she's such a recluse. But this place seems like a small town, and people know each other, even if they don't really see each other. Of course, Asha is the only one to really pay much attention to one of the only bakers in town, if not the only baker. So they should all know because they should all be getting baked goods from Kyra or adjacent. But like, also, this is so stupid. By stupid, I mean my thought. Because you get me going, okay, there's no sun. But you have a baker. Where is the baker getting the wheat? Where is the baker getting flour? Where is the baker getting yeast? Where is the baker getting like anything that you would use to make bread? Because they obviously are not growing wheat because they don't have a sun. Unless they're using light magic to grow plants. But we don't hear anything about that, and they don't even have a fake sun created by magic to feed the plant. Like, I don't understand how any of this stuff works down here. Now, as these broody guys in this butchery start going in on Kyra being a weirdo, Asha starts defending her. Because she's not weird. She's nerdy, and these blokes don't know what nerdy means. So Asha says, quote, you know, likes books, kind of shy, gets really excited about nerdy, she can't use the word nerdy to describe a nerd, can she? Gets really excited about science or magic, I guess, and books and shit. Guess they're more common where I'm from. Yeah, that just sounds weird, Smooth Skin said. Oh, bite my ass, Asha huffed. So where can I find this Gale girl? Is it just because Glowworm is super innocent, or should they all be like taking her literally? Because there is a point where she says, like, I think it was before this, because I remember being like, why didn't they take that literally? But she's talking to Glowworm and says like, fuck me. And he's like, no, thank you. And then I think he says something, she does it again later, and he's like, you don't mean that literally, right? And she's like, yeah. But then she says, bite my ass, and none of these guys have a response to it. Anyway, since she asks where she can find Gale, they all just tell her where to go. And that would be the docks, because she works on the water, obviously, being a sea monster, wink, wink. But she just works on the water. At the docks, Asha meets Gale and Lefty. The two of them flirt when Asha is dragged onto the sea to learn how to row a boat for some reason. And then there's this chick named Pisces who just fights with Gale the whole time and mocking her for her water magic. And I'm just like, why? You all work on the sea. It can't be that hard to understand why she has water magic, why she would want water magic. Why is Pisces like this? All of these people have grown up around this, and Asha is the only one who is like, it's no big deal. But everybody else is just like either ready to demonize magic or no, pretty much just mock anybody with an interest in magic when it is literally your life sustaining power. There is lots of bickering that happens for no reason. We find out that Gale and Kyra are tense around each other as Asha tries to get Gale to share more magic with uber nerd Kyra, and then Gale finally shares this book called The End of Days with Asha, which has some information on the disappearance of the sun. How the frick do you have a book called The End of Days, but no general mythology about where the sun went that the people learn in like school or discussion or through the storytelling apparatus at the theater? Like, nobody talks about this, but you literally have a book called The End of Days. Also, you're underground in a ditch. What do you mean the sun just disappeared? I mean, you could say like this whole mythology came from this town being sucked into the ground. And so then that was transformed into they lost the sun mythology, but that's not here. This is also a first book in a series, so it could come out in other books. I don't know. I'm just not getting a sense of world building here. Asha sits down to read the book, and then she is rowing again, and everyone gets back, drops an oar. Nothing of value really happens there. Asha spends forever in the bath with Glowworm's old water because they don't have fresh water here, but they have a ton of snow and water magic. Glowworm and Kyra come into the house, and Kyra has brought a bunch of pastries for them to eat and talk over. And then Asha is telling Kyra about what she learned, and that the way that the world is, the world that they know, it is all wrong. And just because they've survived without the sun doesn't mean that they should keep doing it, and that things should change. Kyra gets upset and leaves, especially after Glowworm reprimands her for disagreeing with Asha. Still, Asha complains about how all of this isn't normal. What exactly is normal to Asha when they have magic down here that she doesn't use? That's not normal either. And she was sitting over there defending the use of magic to other people. So like, it's just the sun issue that she's like, this isn't normal too. They keep going on, and Glowworm sounds like he's being gaslit into believing the way that he is living isn't good enough. Quote, he spent some time chewing before swallowing it down. Sorry, I think that I had a point going into this. Just, he motions, one hand in a circle. I don't think that you're wrong at all. I mean, yeah, we've been fine so far, or at least alive, but just because things are good enough doesn't mean that we should just not try and make things better, you know? Yeah, Asha said. Thank goodness she wasn't the crazy one. I mean, this place is cool, yeah, but like, you guys can't be happy with this, right? I mean, I wouldn't say that, but Glowworm sighed. It's complicated, I guess. It's complicated, I guess. Just don't get too far over your head, all right? You worry too much, dude. I've got this, Asha said, grinning. Just wait and see. It's gonna be great. What exactly do you have? You've come into this foreign culture, and instead of discovering it, you're saying that it's wrong, it needs to change. Everybody is suffering, even when they're like, but we're fine. And you're like, no, I'm going to colonize you and assimilate you into what is better, what is on the surface, where we have science and the sun. And aren't you miserable? Yes, you're miserable. Don't try to tell me that you're not. But that's all that I'm seeing here. They keep eating until they pass out. Returning to the docks, it's warm outside and people are in the water. Asha's on the boat. Pisces is bickering with everyone all the time, and Lefty is threatening to banish her. She doesn't shut the frick up. How do any of these people even operate, period, in like a work kind of way when they're constantly bickering like children and they're not able to just exist and do their jobs? So passivity isn't really a cultural norm in this, obviously, or else Pisces and the others would not constantly be bickering. Otherwise, Pisces and the others would not constantly be bickering. But then now, why are they accepting Asha's aggressiveness when they won't accept that flack from freaking Pisces or anybody else? Again, how do any of these people actually operate as a society that doesn't have people dying all the time from lack of food and resources and cooperation? When you're living in such an extreme circumstance of underground with theoretically no crops to grow, so you're eating just basically the fish and maybe the growths off of the side of the cave as all of your food, and then anything that falls from the sky, and then maybe the lowest person on the totem pole because you're a little desperate for some meat. I don't really know. Also, do they have magic that can just like create food? I know we got all the elemental magics and then dark magic and light magic. So theoretically, I guess we don't have creation magic. They're out fishing again, warned of an actual sea monster that's out there, so that's normal in this world. I don't know if that would be normal for Asha as well, because again, we don't have an idea of what is on the surface, what's true on the surface. Also, Gale thinks that the sea monster is hot, so that's random. While fishing, the boat gets attacked by the sea monster. Asha goes overboard but is rescued. The chapter ends with Gale and Pisces still bickering until Pisces is sent flying off of the dock. Apparently we don't care about the sea monster still in the water after all of that. We're just gonna backhand her into the water. Also to note, they've got this huge body of water near the village and theoretically a fishing culture, but no one knows how to swim, because that's also mentioned. They say that like they're swimming in the warm water. Well, they're chilling in the warm water. I know that's a contradictory statement. They're in the warm, they're hanging out in the warm water, but nobody knows how to swim except Asha. And you might remember that in the intro it mentioned how she was a great swimmer, and that's something that's brought up as making her different than all the others, is like nobody knows how to swim here. And Glowworm is pulling wood around / working when he runs into this little kid who is super enthusiastic about their historical mystical woman Lux. And I guess Glowworm's already been disillusioned just by the suggestion Asha was saying, nah fam, but she's not gonna sleep with you, bro. Even if you become an atheist, she's not gonna sleep with you. So now he's already angry enough to bite his tongue when he's listening to this child talk about Lux, because he doesn't believe in Lux anymore. You know, the goddess that everybody is brought up believing and whom gives them magic so that they can see in the dark. He's then approached by some other preteen who tells him that Kyra needs his help, so he goes to her. Kyra's bloody and non-responsive. He looks over the damage on her body, but she's not really talking. She can't talk because she's just non-responsive, and he doesn't really know what to do other than take care of her the best that he can. Asha tells Glowworm that people are forgetting their memories and that no one is thinking that it's weird to forget people and places like they are. She says that she's got informants on this and keeps it confidential until Glowworm immediately asks who it is, and she's like, it's Lottie. Lottie told me that people are losing their memories. Asha's pushing him about forgetting memories and he's getting upset. She says that she is going to try to find out more about Kyra and then bails on Glowworm to go and talk to her. Glowworm also tells Asha about Kyra's condition, and Asha's like, I'm gonna go and figure out if Kyra will talk to me and hopefully get more information from her about what the frick is going on here. So talking to Kyra about magic stuff now, she's saying that they have magic back home, a different sort of magic than what's here, and maybe it's seeping in and that's what's making things weird here. What that means, I don't know, and how it would be like seeping in and then affect their brains, I don't know. It just sounds like it's meaning to do a misdirect to kind of set up a red herring, but it's not convincing because we don't have any idea what Asha's hometown looks like. She tells Kyra that she wants to go home, and Kyra is sad about this. So what's Asha decide to do? Get hella aggressive, of course. Quote, I thought you liked finding new places. It's what you do, right? Your purpose. I mean, yeah, to find, but not to live forever. Kyra leaned away, pushing herself back to her feet to face from Asha. With a carefully measured voice, she said, you've been fine with it this long, and it's not like there's only one place to go adventuring. You can do that anywhere. So what does this change? Everything. How could she not understand? That's not how adventures work, Kyra. It's not like I'm fucking moving here. Would Kyra even know what that means? Were adventurers a thing here? Asha racked her brain, trying to find a way to explain. It's like the people who found me. Shit, foragers. Like the foragers, kinda. Go out, look for shit, go home, show everybody what you've got, tell them about it, and rest for a while, then you go and do it again. It's not like I was looking for somewhere else to stay. I just wanted to be able to go out and see some new shit, get some stories to tell around the fucking fire. I get she wants to go home and she's emotional, but the level of aggression is a lot. Kyra's just asking this person why she would leave when she doesn't understand, and she thought she'd become friendly with Asha when she has no other friends here. It's not that big a deal. As Kyra tries to understand Asha, she just keeps swearing at her aggressively that she doesn't want to stay here in this fucking shithole of a frozen tundraville. So she's so mean that Kyra leaves her own house, and Asha's like, whatever. I'm going home and no one understands what it's like to live my life and have Your entire life taken away from you. What? You're adventuring. You were brought here accidentally, and you chose to stay here for discovery. You chose to leave the life that you had behind, and now you're like, well, it was all taken away from me. No, it wasn't. You left home of your own accord. What is this suddenly acting like a victim? Glowworm takes Asha to this place that they call the Deep Dark, and she says that she wants out, and he's like, oh, you can't leave. That's not how this works. So Asha just keeps swearing at him over and over again, as if saying fuck 20 million times means anything or is some magic spell that'll get her out of here. And then she calls him super fucking dumb multiple times and is surprised when he loses it and tells her to fuck off. Also, I would like to note that there are more ways to show anger than to just have somebody swearing a bunch. So now Glowworm is saying that his life wasn't perfect, like her perfect little town and her perfect little village that she can't stop talking about, and how amazing her life was on the surface, and that he has memories that he'd rather forget. But she can't really appreciate that now, can she? She's free to go away, but he's not going to help her, and he's not going to have anything to do with her anymore. Who knew that all that it would take to be encouraged to leave would be to become an aggressive dick? If only she had done that from the start. Oh, wait. She walks away after he begs her to leave, and she thinks that she deserves answers from him for his behavior. Asha, you don't deserve anything. You saying that you deserve it means that you are owed it, but you're not. You owe them an apology because they've been nothing but hospitable and you've been mean. Glowworm is upset that he fought with Asha, so his mom comforts him and says it'll be fine soon and they'll make up. Asha wallows in how much she is going to miss home and thinks about everything at home in long detail, and how she doesn't know if it's worse if her family believes that she is alive and out there waiting for her to come back, or if they've already mourned her death and then she does come back alive. Eventually, Lottie finds her and tells her that the goddess Lux is being held by the Dark One and they need to free her. But she's unsure how to do that because if she dies, there's no one to come after her. And she's not sure how to do that because Lottie can't go after her. If she dies, then there's no one to come after her to become the new priestess. And now Asha wants to free Lux to help her get back to the surface. I thought we were anti-religion here and saying that everything was wrong. How much of this world that they live in is controlled by Lux? Lottie also assures Asha that she'll recover her relationship with Glowworm. Oh, and Asha also talks about being in classes as an adventurer and being told about cults and bad religions, and also says, well, all things basically can exist at the same time. All gods and goddesses and ghosts and whatever afterlife you believe in. And she was afraid of war and how icky people are, and it was all those history classes that made her hate humanity because humanity is scary. Apparently not scary enough to become an adventurer. You know, saying all of these things can exist at once also diminishes the belief of the people of faith. That's not really a way to be all inclusive. I don't really know if there's a way to be all inclusive without it being insulting and meaningless to actual believers of something, as kind as the thought might be. Asha is anxious about where she can stay since she's upset all of her friends and doesn't trust the brutes at the butchery. She runs into a random person who mentions an abandoned house that she decides to go and check out. Asha explores this abandoned house and feels like it's haunted. She wanders around it more, finds some things in the house, and wonders why Kyra would lie to her about being able to leave. Doesn't she know better? Asha has to go back to her real life at some point. It's not like she was moving here. She decides that she needs to talk to Gale about these things that she's found out, so that's where she goes next. She tells Gale that it looks like someone had been living in that abandoned house, and on the 4th floor there was a grave with a bunch of soulstone chokers on the floor. Asha lays out all of her problems to Gale now because she needs to vent. Quote, "If I was, I wouldn't be here. Look, I don't have any idea what's going on. I don't want to throw accusations around, but something is wrong in this town. And this is the best lead that I have now. Maybe it's nothing. I almost hope that it's nothing, but things aren't adding up. I mean, early when I came here, Kyra mentioned a few times that she would take me home. Talked to her about it not long ago, and now she's saying that she doesn't know if she can. You guys have legends of a son, but don't actually have one. And as far as I know, there's no magic that should be able to manipulate memories, but you're missing half of your life, and I still have no memory of some of the stuff I apparently said and did when I first fell here. Who knows what else has been lost? Who knows if others even realize they're missing something?" Gale is ready to raid Kyra's place. Asha says that she wants to talk to Kyra first. Gale says she wants to know where she came from. So now Asha's at Kyra's place while Kyra's at work, and Asha is looking through all of her stuff, mocking how many plushies she has. In Kyra's house, she finds a book that might be suspicious and wants Gale to confirm whether it is suspicious or not. Who knows? It's a book about magic, and generally, what's the book about? Who knows? It doesn't really say, But like, how are you going to know what's suspicious in her house when she just has a bunch of magic books like everywhere? Asha wants to talk to Kyra before they really go in on her about like, is she sussy? So they head over to the bakery and they're making small talk. Asha's like, what are we, pretending our fight never happened or something? Asha's asking about magic a bit and we're told, quote, there's tons that I haven't gotten to go over yet, though admittedly, quite a bit of it is just theories and experiments and little things. I don't know what theories, experiments, and little things means in this situation. Experiments and theories would suppose a formal academic structure for magic, a studying of magic that was then written down and respected in some way. But like, nobody in town wants to learn magic. How long has this town been underneath the surface of the world? At least 1-2 generations, right? Maybe? In this book, magic has also been described as this religion where you're better off not knowing the mechanics of it, and yet they have entire books of theories and experiments that would then mean testing this religion's abilities. Asha, again being short-tempered and aggressive, immediately loses it on Kyra and demands answers for whatever is going on. Kyra says that she'll talk, but not here. She grabs Asha and makes her sick, saying that her magic can be overwhelming to many. Sorry, and yeah, she hid that kind of magic that she has. What kind of magic is it? Don't know. Still not saying. But apparently she's behind the memory loss going on, and she's like, I'll make you forget I'll make you forget all about this anyway, and then we can be friends again, which doesn't really make a lot of sense. If she can do that, then why does she have no friends in this town? And also, why didn't she do it sooner on Asha and then make Asha remember it? Asha's like, oh no, I can't let you get away with this. And Kyra's like, hee, well, I'm not working alone. Get away with what exactly? What exactly is Kyra doing? Just erasing people's memories? You'll notice that a lot of these chapters ends with Asha passing out. Kind of feels like it's just a way to end things. Asha wakes up with this random siren singing to her or something, and I don't know how all of a sudden Lefty and Gale are there, but they're also now fighting the siren. It's going to explain this later as part of Asha's memories just being removed, but okay. They defeat the siren and Asha tells Lefty and Gale about Kyra being sussy and shows them the book that she is somehow still carrying despite being dropped here by Asha. By Kyra. I can only assume that Kyra brought her here and shows them the book that she is somehow still carrying. I can only assume that Kyra brought her here, so why didn't she take the book back? And how are we going to get thrown around in the water and your book doesn't take on any damage? Is that because it's a magic book? It doesn't appear to be anything here in relation to, there doesn't appear to be anything in relation to rules here, it just is. They all go to the lighthouse that apparently Lefty and Gale have never seen before, despite them both working on the water that the lighthouse would theoretically be on. How is it that everyone in this town is so clueless except for Asha? Like, even the people who would theoretically pass by this stuff every day, and I get it. We got some kind of mind brainwashing happening, so maybe they knew of the lighthouse before and just don't because it was wiped out of their brains. But it just seems like there were just too many coincidences in this book of people not knowing things that they should know bare minimum for the culture of this place, and they just don't. And then Asha's like, I already know, like the history of magic or what the signs of water magic look like. I mean, maybe again it was Kyra who placed it in these guys' heads that Gale was a sea monster, but then they have a real sea monster in the ocean, so like, why are we thinking that this random girl is also a sea monster? Anyway, as it is, it just reads like nothing is really developed, and everything mentioned is for convenience and service of the main character. Everyone else is hopelessly blind in everything. So now Gale is given the book that Asha stole from Kyra. Asha's out here demanding that Gale hurry up and translate the book's symbols. It just mentions elemental symbols though, so I don't really know what all there really is to translate, just kind of figuring out, okay, what do these less common symbols look like? Because I know fire, earth, water, air. It also brought me to question if there's a different written language in the Ma, and so then is there like a lot of stuff that Asha can't read, or is it just the magic stuff? Since Asha is so emotional, Gale goes upstairs to work on the book in silence while Lefty talks to Asha about having her breakdown, about Kyra's betrayal, and Lefty talks to Asha, who is having a breakdown because of Kyra's betrayal, as if it affects her the most out of everybody else in existence. As if Kyra hasn't been lying to this entire village of people and using her magic to manipulate them, but nah. Asha's the only one having a crisis and breaking down and needing everybody else to comfort her, and Lefty is over here talking her down from her emotions, giving her hugs and babying her, saying it's all gonna be alright. Lefty shares the origin of his name and that his mom died at sea, and Asha's like, bruh, I don't know how he talks so emotionlessly about his dead mother. Lefty continues to encourage Asha that she'll find her place someday and things won't be as hard, and she's like, quote, hope so, yeah. Maybe right now I'm just kind of the dead weight, but you know what? I'm the captain of my own ship, and fuck it. I'm not good at speech shit, but thanks. Asha passes out until Gale comes back with the translation about dark magic's existence, including that it can control mind, make memories, and illusion. But there's just this list of strengths, weaknesses, history, and that darkness is weak against fire. Asha, Gale, and Lefty find and confront Kyra about the dark magic and memory erasing. They're screaming at her for erasing memories, and how is it her right to even do that and to make everything better according to her? Kyra doesn't explain why she's doing it and just says that no one would understand, then disappears herself. Asha is ready to go home now and at least take a break for the night. She returns to Glowworm's place. Stepping inside Glowworm's house, she's suspicious that he's willing to just move on so fast after the fight, not confront it and just like be nice to her and take care of her. She's noticing that Glowworm is even warmer than normal, like his skin is warmer, not like he is kinder than normal, but like he's hot to touch, and she notices. He's going out of his way to make her feel better and to take care of her. She and Glowworm go back and forth about how Kyra's got dark magic and they need to stop her, and why would she do this? Maybe she just hates the light. Is she the one that destroyed the entire town this way, or was it passed on to her? Why does she have no friends in this place when she can literally control their mind and make them all worship her? This feels like exactly the thing where she should be the most loved person if she was like kind of insecure to the point that she's wearing a mask as well, right? Where you could then make the village hate Gale and like Kyra and nobody knows why, and nobody questions why. Then Glowworm puts Asha down for sleep after she's been thrashed by the siren. Glowworm is trying to remember anything about Kyra, but he goes out to find Kyra. Surprisingly, she's not hard for anyone to find despite being in trouble with Asha and many of the others in town, knowing what she can do. Glowworm goes at Kyra about why did she do what she did, getting angrier until she finally spills, quote, fine, I just... She let out a sigh, tension running out and leaving her looking too much like a puppet whose strings had been cut. Why do I even care? It's always the same anyways. This is why I don't even try to explain anymore. So what now? Do you want to scream, punch me, call me a traitor, blame me for keeping secrets despite knowing that you'll blow up in me? Do you think that I enjoy hiding all this? Do you think that I get a laugh out of knowing that most of the village want me dead? Then why do it? If it's making you so miserable, why bother? Because otherwise people die. There is no further conversation on this, though it just breaks into, can I believe this? Should I believe this? And Kyra changes the subject. Glowworm demands more, and Kyra finds that she's alone when she calls out impersect, and then she teleports away. Glowworm thinks about how he's changed something, but what it is, I don't know. It doesn't really say. Still, it's vague. He goes home and tells Asha everything that just happened, but that's skipped over, so she knows more info than the reader does, since nothing was made clear. Asha goes to Lottie then and tells her about Kyra's dark magic. Lottie is like, dang. That seems so obvious. How did we not know? And Lottie is taking this betrayal well, while Asha is breaking down again with, I can't believe my friend did this to me. It's amazing that Lottie, someone who has lived in this village all of this time with Kyra, who is the priestess of the light goddess and has had her mind erased multiple times, has no response to this. But Asha, the guest, breaks down about this long-term betrayal, even though she's only been here for what, like a couple of days? So now Lottie is saying how brave Asha is for taking this betrayal on the chin. Like, she is just so brave. Asha's like, maybe I can save Kyra. And Lottie's like, no, you can't. It's too late for her. She's just evil, totally evil, and there is nothing that you can do to change her heart. It's just straight darkness. Like, wow, girl. Okay, this is how it's gonna be. You gave up on that fast. Goddess Lux shows up randomly to encourage them to storm wherever Kyra's base is and get the sun back. Aren't they underground? What do you mean, get the sun back? Like, it's a constant thing, but I still just don't understand what this world is supposed to look like and how they're supposed to have the sun down here when they had the sun on the surface. Asha also thinks that it's a great time to be like, I don't know, I didn't believe in gods before, but now I do, and I don't really like them because they always torture you for believing the wrong thing. Like, we're supposed to know what to believe from the beginning, and like, I'm sorry I made the wrong decision, but you want to hurt me over this? Ooh, you're not a really good god. It's all up to Asha now to go and free Lux from the prison wherever she's being kept. I don't know why she was picked and why nobody else would do it when people are theoretically very strong believers of Lux. And then here Lux is coming to talk to a non-believer and say that she is the bestest and she's the only one that can do anything. Asha goes to the village and tells everybody that they need to free Lux, and everyone is just ready to follow her into battle and doesn't question her at all. They're led into this cave somewhere and get scratches by walking through crystals. I don't know. And I don't know how I don't know where this cave is or how they got there all of a sudden or how they found out where this cave is. They just know. I guess Lux probably just mentally told them where she needed them to go. And also, there is no guarding going on in this place, despite it being where Kyra is. You would think that she would have, like, she has mind control, but she's not mind controlling anybody from the village to protect her. They're just walking straight into this place. I know that it can be hard to, like, do a fortress. I've seen enough stories where it's like going into this place that should be heavily guarded and it's not, because it would make it harder for the author and for the character, and now the author has to figure out how to get the character through these cards. But then you're just like in this empty building or this empty place that should be well guarded and there's nobody there. The group finally gets to the bottom and Kyra is trying to pickaxe through the wall. I'm not sure why. Is it trying to get out? Is it trying to get to the sun? The group attacks Kyra, and a sea monster / siren from before shows up to attack. Then the random dudes from the butchery are also there and attacking to make this into one big epic final battle of everybody being involved as they defeat Kyra. Some of them die, and it mentions like Gale taking this weird unicorn dog horse's horn through her body. Lottie follows Lux's orders and goes deeper into the tunnel until she finds Kyra and the mask that she always wears and smashes it. This unlocks all of the memories and shows that Gale and Kyra are actually sisters. That should have been shown somewhere or hinted at somewhere earlier on, even in the way that Kyra treats Gale or talks about Gale or something. Again, maybe it would have been better to have Gale be outcasted and Kyra be embraced, and everybody is just like, Gale is this weirdo. And so then that would have caused, obviously, Asha to go searching for information about Gale to try to find where Gale is, because the way that Gale is outcasted from this place has made her just be separate from society. And then that could also explain why Pisces and others are dicks to her, but then she became very friendly or romantic with Lefty, and that is why Lefty is defensive of her. Like, there are ways to build these relationships and the ways that they go together, but they weren't here. It says that Kyra actually is the one that came out of the sea and raised by Gale's mother as one of her siblings. Some thought that Kyra was a symbol of good luck, while others thought that she was a monster. Quote, one storm season had been particularly bad. People hadn't put away their lanterns properly. A lot of the light was lost, and for a short while they thought they might lose the great light in the center. Their mom just told the truth, that the townsfolk were being careless. Everyone else pointed their fingers at them, saying that it was their fault, the fault of their blasphemy. Kyra called them out, telling them that if their god punished everyone for what 3 people did, their god was evil. Then she went home and hugged Gale, who had had a nervous shutdown from it, feeding Gale treats until they were both almost sick, and that was why. They had dug too deep and hit something that was meant to stay buried. The leader of the church, Dawn, had been telling people to storm the crystal cave, that Lux was there. She had gone half mad, working the people into a frenzy. No one would listen when they said that there was nothing good in there. No one listened to them when they warned them about Bloodstone, who took down the runaway skyship and tried to kill those who stole what was theirs to protect. Until one day, Kyra came back with their mother's choker in her hand and her voice seemingly gone. She didn't speak a word, no matter how much Gale pleaded, no matter how Glowworm tried. She just seemed to be drifting further away. Their mother was gone, and Kyra might as well have been practically a husk in a mat, hollowed, dead on her feet. All they could do was keep her alive. It left little for Gale herself until she ran completely out. She was crying as she hit the water, intent to leave, but the traitorous sea gave her its magic instead of taking. Lefty fished her out when she floated to the shore and took her to his home, where she never truly left. Neither of them thought of Kyra until eventually she came in, finally breaking her silence to say, I'm sorry, you're wasting away. I can't lose you. You'll be better. We'll make it better. I'm sorry. And then the darkness came in Gale's mind and stole everything that she'd known, and the same darkness spread out, and no one tried to free this deceitful god. And that was why. When Bloodstone charged out, Asha's blood still on its ruby horn, and ran straight for Kyra, who had kept it sealed so long. When it reared up to crush Kyra beneath hooves of stone and onyx, Gale threw herself under it, water and ice surging around her in a last-ditch effort to protect what she hadn't realized she'd lost. So there is like this mystical creature that's like a unicorn that controls darkness that was being kept in the basement, well, kept in this crystal cave. And like, I still don't know why that Kyra was pickaxing. She already had powers. I don't know why we're here. They escape the cavern as they are being attacked by Bloodstone, decide that they can't stay here in this cave because of the danger, and round up as many villagers as they can to return to the spaceship slash flying ship at the lighthouse that Kyra showed to Asha earlier. The one that she said could not fly. Well, guess what? Now it can fly. When did it start being able to fly? I don't know. But they're gonna fly it. Honestly, we still have no idea why Kyra did what she did, other than she, like, betrayed Gale and then wanted to make things better because she felt like she wronged Gale. But then we don't see Kyra having any relationship with Gale, so what was the point? Also, what happened to freaking Lux? Where is Lux? Did they rescue her from underneath? Was in the cave? Was that all a lie to try to get them down there to Bloodstone so that Bloodstone could kill them and be free? Because was what they were doing freeing Bloodstone from whatever was keeping Bloodstone trapped in there? Because was that the deceit? It wasn't actually Lux that was in the cave, but it was Bloodstone that was telepathically talking to them to convince them to come and rescue Bloodstone from where it was being kept. I don't know. They get into the ship and then they fly out of the cave. I don't know how we got here, by the way, because now we get another pass out and then it's the epilogue and Asha is waking up. I know, so many chapters. I might have to, if I was feeling slightly more motivated, I might go back to every chapter and see how many chapters started with her waking up. But they're in safety-ish now. That's resolved. So Kyra is with them on this ship. It's mostly Glowworm, Kyra, and Asha in whatever room they're in below the deck. Everyone else is above deck. Asha immediately starts yelling at Kyra, going, why did you lie to us? Why did you do this? You could have told us what was going on. I don't even know what was going on, so it's true. Somebody could have said something. I mean, and is she talking about Bloodstone? How could Bloodstone... Does anybody know about Bloodstone? The unicorn thing? Look, I would almost be like, guys, somebody else needs to read this to see if you can make more sense of it than I can, because I'm just like, but I don't want to ask you to do that if it's not something that interests you. And Bloodstone just randomly showed up for this final battle, so I don't know why it's so powerful. Because Asha has yelled at Kyra, she's upset again, and she teleports away. So great job for that, Asha. Great people skills. Kind of making it pointless that she was here in the first place since she didn't talk. She got yelled at and then she disappeared. Goodbye. Once Kyra disappears, there is a new character, Nadi, who is also in this room and whom we've never met before this moment, greets Asha and congratulates her on being the one seeking to bring the sun back. And I'm guessing that that is where the next book will focus. So that is the story. Getting into the postscript comments, the writing. This novel struggled with shifting tenses at times, enough that it was noticeable. The prologue also isn't really a prologue, as it is really just a chapter 1. Prologues usually denotate that it is something that takes place outside of the timeline within the story, like it didn't fit in the story, but it has some relation to the story. This is just her falling into the maw, so it's not really outside of the realm. It's just the first part of the story. The narration and punctuation were very juvenile, from the capital letters to the multiple punctuation marks to the inappropriate use of swearing. The majority of the story, including relationships between the characters and the actions, made this read like middle grade, but then you have adult language as an attempt to force it into an older audience. At least that's what it felt like to me. It doesn't really work when it doesn't feel like it is made for a younger audience in logic, relationships, and storylines, but there are going to be people who do like this regardless. but also probably because it is for a younger audience who want to feel more mature because of the swearing. Which leads me into, when talking about this with others, I mentioned being confused by the target audience of this, and then they brought up Busy Pop, and then it all made sense. So that's not to say that you can't use swearing or even have characters swear a lot or inappropriately and not be an adult novel, but it's a whole menagerie of things that make something feel younger or that make something feel adult, not any singular thing. And constantly using swearing as a punchline between multiple characters, it being the only way that you really show anger, it being the default, the sassiness that was just not even sassy, it was just rude of the main character, also came off very immature. And when you have all of the characters swear in the exact same way, it also removes their individual voice, so they no longer sound like they are individual characters, they're all the same. Understanding the age of your readership and the way that you write and your target audience are so important to not only having the correct reader read your book to enjoy it, but also to know how to talk to your audience. Because a lot of people don't like to be talked down to, and so if you're writing for an adult audience, but it sounds like you're writing for children, you're gonna have a weird clip. But then I can't really recommend this to middle grade because of all of the swearing. I don't think it's appropriate, but obviously other people will feel differently. It's also not an insult to say that this reads like middle grade. It's just a completely different audience that takes a completely different skill than writing adult books and a different narrative style. And I think that this author is also has the ability to write for middle grade books if you take out all of the yelling of hoof gods. Also, parentheses text makes this read younger as well. I am not a fan of parentheses afterthought messages in the text, and there was also some random point where there were strike throughs in the text in like 2 places, around 80%, and I don't understand why those were there. World building. The world building in this book wasn't really established for what was normal, what these people considered to be normal, or what their culture was, and how it was different than that on the surface. At best, you had some characters who took Asha literally at first when she was saying swear words, but then they have psychologists referenced at some point. So they have psychologists. Who started that? Did they have Freud? Did they have some other version of Freud? Because like psychology is a very specific studied field, and now you have what I had thought was more like a typical fantasy setting where you've got like torches and you don't really have advanced technology, but now we have psychology as a practice discipline. I don't know. Do you need a license? They also have magic underground and science above ground to start, but then Asha is saying that they have different kinds of magic on the top side that can then slip in and corrupt lower magic, but then like that's not brought into questioning what's happening or why people might be losing their memories. You have zero response from the village to Asha's aggression, and zero characters seem to have any relationship with each other, despite it being a small town that is in captivity, so they would all know each other. They'd all form opinions and cliques and have feelings, especially, however, Kyra wants, because Kyra can control them all. The exposition dumping on magic doesn't really count as complete world building, because for me, world building includes how the characters live in the environment in which they live in a believable way. Not just like, here is the creative magic and what I did to make it. On top of that, consider that Asha is supposed to be an adventurer. I get that she only just got this job, so she doesn't have to be perfect, but what do adventurers do? She explained it earlier in the story as like going around helping people, finding ruins and magical things, but like, what are they trained to do? Should she be observing and keeping a low profile? She doesn't even have the personality that seems good for interactions with foreign cultures and doesn't even try. She's aggressive. She tells them that they're wrong immediately. She hates their religion. She doesn't want to participate in anything going on in the village. But then she doesn't even have to behave appropriately because nobody responds to her emotions on the outside. And eventually Glowworm gets angry, and that's the only emotion that he has seen. And that's because she keeps pushing him. It's almost a giveaway that this is going to be a problem too when Asha shows up and says they're all backwards around here, and then people like Glowworm just immediately start agreeing with her and changing their minds on their entire culture with little to no argument. Also, where do they get their food and agriculture from? They seemingly have everything that you would have on the surface, from access to bread, wheat, chocolate, animals. I mean, the chocolate we get from the caravan that fell through the sky, but is it all just magic? How does any of this work? It doesn't seem like being in this dark with no sun changes anything about access to anything. The whole thing then on getting the sun back also doesn't make a lot of sense because they're just in a hole without an open sky. So then how would they even get a son back? I mean, maybe they're all just talking figuratively, and by get the son back, she means get them back on the surface. But I wish that that had been explored a little more, because I feel like if I'm thinking of the conversations that she had with different people in this book, they were all so vague. Like the ideas hadn't been fully fleshed out yet. And so it wasn't being specific about what was missing, about the culture of the area, about what anybody knew, because we could have learned so much about how these people operate, or what they're used to, or where they think they live, or the echo if they live in a cave, like anything to be more specific about what they think the circumstances are of their lives and what getting the sun back means. And they also have a random plane in a lighthouse in a cave that they can fit the whole village in and fly out with. Is this just another dimension? I'm so confused. The more I think about it, the less I understand it. Another question that I had was, why would these villagers so openly give magic to whoever comes, like outsiders whom they don't know? Do they not question anyone's motives? We need to understand their culture more for why they are so open, because Kyra's out here expositing and teaching magic to strangers who could use it to dominate the world, especially when she is the one in control, when she is the one then giving magic to outsiders. She is forfeiting her control, and everything that she's done up to this point is for more control. What is she doing other than creating a red herring to make her look less suspicious by expositing? But like, in the circumstances, why would she share any of this information with anybody from the outside, with anybody at all? Language/dialogue. The language and dialogue mixture didn't really help with establishing world building or culture in this book. Quote, "Hey, so is there something that I should be doing now? I mean, I wouldn't mind looking around, but I don't want to accidentally offend someone so bad that I get caught in a fight to the death or something." Kyra paused in her mixing to shake her head. "I think you'll be fine." So you're giving me fuck all to help me out, huh? Fuck all? I wouldn't try that, but you do you. It's an expression. Like, I'm telling you, the swearing is either the exclamation point to show anger or annoyance or upset, or it is the joke, and it is constant. And then you have, sorry, but cringy dialogue like this. Quote, "Kyra, this is all very interesting and fucking awesome, but also your planet is fucking weird." Asha was pretty sure that if she brought a physicist here, they'd have an aneurysm and die. "I don't even know physics or whatever that well, but maybe that's for the best, because magic has thrown it straight out the window and took a shit on it. Physics? Something that doesn't matter because it's been brutally murdered on this planet." This planet? I thought we were just in a maw, in a hole. Did we isekai into a completely other planet? What? Also, quote, "Fuck me. You mean that in a figure of speech way, right?" "Yes. Gotcha. Guess there wouldn't be much point in putting clothes on." And then odd phrases like, quote, "Lottie nodded, taking one of Asha's hands between two of her own." When you say two of her own, it implies that there are more than two hands, and maybe Lottie has more than two hands. Something to mention with this, and it takes me back to when I was working on Dead End Drive forever ago in college, was that my professor told me that you can either sacrifice the integrity of your characters for the jokes and just tell the jokes, or you can sacrifice some of your jokes and prioritize your characters. And for me, this looks like it is sacrificing the voice and the identities of the characters in order to make these like Adult Swim style jokes that are just swearing. And I don't think that was a good bet. But again, that goes into the Vivi Pop category, and maybe it is a good bet if you get your fingers in the viewers of Vivipop who would love this. Mismatched descriptions and narration. There were mixed/confusing descriptions throughout, usually to try and be funny, but it didn't work for me. One of them being pointing out how outrageous Glowworm was dressed while Asha was still groggy and not fully awake, but was awake enough to make a mental sass while groaning out loud because she couldn't talk. It kind of disrupted the moment. Lack of stake. Despite being in this place that's super, super cold to the point of killing you and that there is magic afoot, and Asha has nothing, there is no risk to her. She doesn't need money. She doesn't need a good attitude. She doesn't need kindness. She doesn't need anything. Doesn't even need manners, and everyone around her is taking care of her. That's something that has also made it feel middle grade, the same way that parents make sure that your child is taken care of so that they can just focus on whatever adventure they're having that day. Lack of motivation. Asha has no motivation for the majority of this story, and when she finally does, it is just given to her. Go and save Lux from this cavern. Why? Because she is just going to, probably for Lottie's sake, to be honest with you. Considering she is an adventurer setting out on her first job, she should have had something in mind, like something a well-known adventurer would do, finding something like this that she could discover and then bring back. When she set out on her first journey, which was to deliver the cart to wherever it needed to go as a first stable job. But she should have already been preparing, like, what had she been taught to do in school or in her adventurer's guild if she became a full-fledged adventurer. And that would, if it's about finding things and solving problems, to come back with stories and runes and artifacts, then you would think that she has a journal that she writes down what's happening with her. And so then once she falls into this place, then she could start observing the people in this place and cataloging their culture and cataloging their magic and cataloging everything that she sees into this journal. And guess what? And that would mean her watching and listening and probably picking up things that are weird and even finding discrepancies from day to day because people are forgetting things. And she could start noticing that and asking people about that. And then her job as an adventurer becomes relevant in the story, and then she brings it to the people that she's talking to, and then she starts forgetting, and she uses the journal to remind herself. But still, this is going back to her having even a single idea of a culture, of something, of a motivation when this starts, and that would have been discover a culture, discover who these people are to bring back glory, and then get welcomed into the Adventurer Guild because she did something incredible, which was find an unknown or even a missing village, whatever. She then says she needs to get out of here, and as she's doing that and then losing her memory and then reminding herself with things in her own journal, she could be like, this is why I need to get out of here. Something weird is happening here, and I need to get out of here before I forget where I came from. And so she could tell Kyra, okay, I need to go home, and then Kyra's like, no, and her mind is wiped, and it puts that tension in there of the antagonist working against the protagonist of what she wants, and that weirdly connecting with when she says she needs to go, and then, oh, she immediately gets smacked with a, I don't remember anything. There are ways to build this and to have your character have motivation constantly through the story that makes sense to what they're doing in the moment, and that motivation creates the tension with the antagonist who works against them and creates forward momentum of them actually trying to accomplish something. But that being said, there is none of that in this story. Asha doesn't really try to do anything, and in many chapters, it just ends up as they're hanging out, as if even in episodic ways. The final thing I'm going to talk about is the characters. None of them really seem to matter. They all talk the same way. They don't really have personalities of their own, and then they bicker like children. When there is no motivation, there's really not much to say about a character because what is there? They just are there. Asha is just smarter and better than everyone. Everyone apologizes to her all the time. Everyone is affirming her all the time of how amazing she is. And then if you go with the idea of Asha being there and studying the culture and studying the magic, it could have also given Asha the idea of like, this is the lost magic that we've talked about on the surface that nobody knows exists. And then that would also give her people and her something incredible to bring back that her people could mine, and that she could determine, wait a second, I don't want to tell anybody on the surface about the people using magic down here because they're going to ruin that culture. I don't know. There's just so many ways to play with this that it never committed to really anything to make it grounded. Glowworm randomly became British at some point, saying feck and bloody, and then just said fuck the rest of the time. Like, it was one scene and I don't understand. Then we're back to the natural fuck. Finally, why are Kyra and Gale and Glowworm all considered strange, but they also seem to be a normal part of society, yet Red-Eye and Thin-Skin and Butch are all not considered strange while they are cooking meat in their panties and drinking beer? Like, this whole place is weird, but Kyra has control over everything, and at some points, I think that people worry about being too obvious because they want to have this suspense of like keeping you in the dark. And I say this after having just finished reading a different thriller book where the first scene is a kill scene, but the main character is the one doing the assassination, but it calls them the man. And this is the thing that gives the villain motivation to do bad things later. And it's a sequel book. So like, you're already introduced to who this character is, but the author still decided to hide the character's identity, who is doing these bad things, when it would have just given more tension to show this is his past life. This is him doing something bad and affecting somebody. And then this is him later, when you get to chapter 1, trying to repent for the past life that he came from. So Hiding things from the reader doesn't always cause tension, and in fact, it can diminish tension by not providing stakes and insight into characters. And that's sometimes what I think is here. Instead of letting us all just believe that, something was weird with Kyra because Kyra, maybe not the priestess, and Kyra could have even used Lottie to be suspicious. Everybody just loves Lottie. Kyra's a normal person, but she still got people that like her, and then everybody hates Gale. So you could make people suspicious that Lottie was framing Gale, and then make Asha kind of get to the bottom of this by trying to talk to people. Like, there are so many ways to do this, and it's not hiding information from the reader. And that's, I think, what many people make mistakes doing. Anyway, those are my thoughts on The Village of Lights. Have you read this book? Will you read this book? Looking forward to the conversation in the comments down below. With that said, have a great weekend, and don't die.
To my children, Tommy, Ike, and Annabelle, if you forget everything else I ever said in the lifetime we shared together, I need you to remember 3 things. 1. Minimize violence done to and by women. As givers of life, it's against their nature, God's design, to do harm, and every act of violence done to them is meant to break their souls, turning what should be a giver of hope into a black widow. A woman who destroys the life and the mercy of her care for no other reason but the corruption of her own self. It is only when you come across these kinds of women that you should put them down, for they are no better than the men who tarnished them. However, take no glee in what must be done. Finding any life so far gone, a black hole is where someone's heart should be, leaves only one solution: the mercy of death, and it's a tragedy when it happens. Make no mistake, a woman's love is the most powerful thing on this earth. It can start wars, end them, and change the devil himself into someone God sees worthy of giving a second chance. She don't owe this love to anyone, but she do carry it around with her so long as she's living. That is why the devil will do everything he can to pervert women's nature and destroy their innocence. Of every crime you can commit during your lifetime, be it out of daring or necessity, for every defiance you may act out against God, government, or man, avoid harming the innocent. For the day that we become bloodthirsty beasts where love don't exist anymore is the day hell on earth has come. And as bad as it may seem at times nowadays, we ain't there yet. 2. Everything you do in your life will create consequences, both seen and unseen, extending further than you can imagine. Nothing you do exists solely within your arm's reach. Think about every decision you make, every action you take, because you won't know how long your choices will stalk you, be them destructions or blessings, rumors or history been made. The truth of the matter is, your life will be controlled not by the truth of what you've done, but by the way others carry on about you. And the thoughts of others are more real in the long term than what you know to be true. It won't stop affecting you just because it ain't real, and no matter the life you've lived, most men can't outrun what's written in them in ink. It ain't hopeless, though. Be firm in knowing who you are outside of the noise, and live beyond the means of the news of the day. 3. There ain't anything stronger than a family you build for yourself. What you put together is worth fighting for. Protect your loved ones with your life, and they'll give theirs in return. Family ain't defined by blood, understand that. And for as strong as the bonds of your family are, know that you'll find just as much passion in the people who hate you. While you'll risk your life for those you care about, those who find your existence to be an insult to theirs will risk themselves to put an end to their affliction. As cruel as it may seem, a man who hates you will stop at nothing until one of you is dead. It's a mistake to believe anything different. Don't let you be the ones taken from, be it by outlaw lawmen or by someone in between. The only one who'll be looking out for you is you and your kin. Maybe there's another way to be, but in all my years I've seen the worst of man, I ain't found another way around man's desire to conquer against all else. There ain't a changing of that mind, and sometimes I believe there ain't the ability for man to change at all, least of all through lead or legislation. I ain't claiming to be right about nothing. On many things, I don't want to be right. But what I do want is for my kids to live a better life than the one I did and avoid the mistakes that I made while finding the truth and purpose in what matter more than gold in this country. It's my hope that by sharing the things I learned that my kids will be better than their old man ever was, and that what I done isn't what people remember me for, but who y'all are going to become. That'll be the legend of Bill Cassidy.